Innovation is a key tool of the entrepreneur. It's not necessarily hard work. It's just it's hard work, but it's not hard work at the same time. If you understand innovation, you will be a good entrepreneur. And in anything we do in life, we can apply these rules to it. It's I think the tag entrepreneur is fast becoming a cliche. It isn't. It's what we do in everyday life. Sources of innovation: the unexpected, surprise success, surprise failure. You found people who have been successful in a way they didn't expect to be successful. In order not to bore you, the examples we could give, but in other people's failures as well too, you can actually find innovation. The incongruity. When I first found this word, it was a bit bombastic from Joker, so I had to go to my dictionary, and it says incongruous means something that is out of place. So I've said that the incongruity is that gray area in an otherwise seamless system. You think that system is perfect. You think the Facebook system is perfect, but there's always something for the Instagram, the WhatsApps of this world. Now, the next thing is process need. Once you do your everyday task, why don't you create? For example, you clean your house, you can simplify it by just writing all the tasks and say, this is the process I follow or something. These are just basic ways of explaining this probably more complex concepts. Dynamics in industry and market structure all change. That happened to me some years ago in 2012. I'm a solicitor in this country, and you've heard of no win, no fee and stuff like that. Now, the insurance industry once found that their profit is being eaten into, and that's simply because they try to find what is making that happen. Now, it was the case that in years past, 2010 for example, someone gets your claim to a solicitor, they get paid humongous amount, and they realize that other than lawyers making money, the middlemen were the ones making this money, and then they were the ones really pushing the compensation culture. So what did they do? The insurance companies went to Parliament and ensure that the Jackson reforms, whereby it becomes illegal for anyone to pay anyone a referral fee to bring personal injury business. So that's affecting that industry at the moment. The unexpected surprise. Look, listen, analyze. Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, for instance, began the company because as a supplier of milkshake machines to hamburger takeaways, he noticed that one of his customers in an obscure part of town was placing massive orders. So he analyzed his observation, and McDonald's was born. The unexpected surprise failure. What happened to Volkswagen? They lied about their carbon emission, and that drove the appearance on the scene of these cars. What do you call them? Someone can help me. I'm not very techy. Electric cars, yes. And in recent times as well, you can remember the what happened with Facebook and their links with Brexit, and what happened in terms of is it something analytical? Yes. So those surprise failures, when those things happen, watch out for them. Just like those footballers on the pitch, keep watching, because that opportunity will come, and be prepared, like Boss Scout says, because if you're prepared, you can strike. Now, the incongruity, that gray area in an otherwise seamless system, an incongruity, sorry, I'm a Shagamu man, I'm from, so I'm not very good, is this harmonious state of things between what is and what ought to be. Now, there's a gentleman in London, he's called Career Insight. KG Giwa and myself attended primary school in Tuash, in Ikeja, Lagos. Now, he's in London, and he's, over the years, he's discovered that in the UK, most ethnic minority find it difficult in getting into project management and what have you. So he's created this brand whereby he's offering training and at the same time getting people work experience. So study that. Process need. believe it or not, in my wacky ways, always thinking of things. Sometime, because I do a lot of Facebook, sometime before this, I thought of the fact that we used to take the selfies like this. And I went to some engineer sometime, I went to ask him that I've been thinking of creating something like this that would, you can stick it to your ham and get to take pictures. It might sell. A few months down the line, whilst I was still dallying about getting that process, this selfie stick came up, and that's the only reason I've not bought it. So you keep thinking about the process. Incongruity and demographics may be the most causes of a process need. It starts with a job to be done. It's a task-focused rather than situation-focused thing. And that's why I was telling you about the insurance business, dynamics in the industry, and market structure. You have to change, go with the times. Don't tell me you're not a Facebook person. Don't tell me you're not an Instagram person. Don't tell me you don't like what people do on what's it called, Snapchat and all that. Get to know something about everything, because the times, you need to change with times. Don't be a dinosaur. Change outside the organization and our industry. Demographics, nature of the population and dynamics therein, changes in mood perception, mood swings. Now, in terms of mood and mood swing, Drucker actually said that you can also do innovation by listening to the sort of music being sung during your times. I'm sure not so many people in this room will know that there's a new meaning for stew on Nigerian Instagram. A few people might know stew. Yeah, you don't want to go there, stew. New knowledge, convergence, over a course of 50 years, keep studying that. In fact, the Chinese people were studying the Nigerian internet, and they kept on hearing stew. And last week in Ikeja, or in Apapa, a buckload of stew prepared from China into Nigeria was impounded by Nigerian custom. Well, unknown to the Chinese, the stew they were bringing in is not the stew that the young generation are talking about on Instagram. Now, example of what governments think about entrepreneurship, a tool to bolster economies. UK, there's a Tier 1 entrepreneurship visa. Individuals who would like to set up or run a business in the UK and have access to up to £200,000 investment funds are encouraged to come and live or continue living in the UK. USA, I like this gentleman. Anytime he comes on the scene, he gives us a breath of fresh air. Our free enterprise system is what drives innovation. We have to make America the best place on earth to do business. That's how our people will prosper. That's how we will win the future. The first step in winning the future is encouraging American innovation. What America does better than anyone is spark the creativity and imagination of our people. We are the nation that puts cars in the driveways and computers in offices. The nation of Edison and the Wright brothers, of Google and Facebook. In America, innovation doesn't just change our lives. It is how we make a living. Our free enterprise system is what drives innovation. Now, in Nigeria, unfortunately, whilst I was one of those who campaigned for President Buhari, I cannot necessarily see how much they've tried to pump in something in terms of innovation and supporting youth. But although I never liked this gentleman towards the end of his years, I'm not doing the willing whalers thing now. Goodluck Jonathan had this idea, you-win. In fact, I consulted for a group of you-win awardees remotely, just telling them what they needed to do in terms of legal work. You-win stands for Youth Enterprise with Innovation in Nigeria. It is an innovative business plan competition aimed at job creation by encouraging and supporting aspiring entrepreneurial youths in Nigeria to develop and execute business ideas. The accomplishment of the 1,200 You-win awardees were celebrated at the Presidential Villa on April 12, 2012. You win. And actually, there's a success story which just broke last week from this U-win as well, and it's very close to. She was one of my classmates when I was in law school. That says it all. That's Labax. She's also called Cash Madam. Labake is a lawyer, and she's working all the best law firms. Ricky Taffa, she started from Ricky Taffa. But Labake just could not get enough. She felt law wasn't for her, despite the fact that she was a very intelligent person. And most times, colleagues call a meeting for Labake to discuss why she's left a legal business to go. And the first idea she started off with was fruit and fiber, taking fruit salad into offices. And we always get to call meetings. And she calls me Fishy, and then each time those meetings are being heard, she calls me in because she knows I'm going to hold her back, because everyone thinks she's crazy, leaving the legal business to go and sell fruits. Now, she started that brand, Cash Madam, and last week I think she won a fund at the Tony Elumelu Foundation. I think she was crying there. But anyway, that's innovation and entrepreneurship. Keep going and be inspired. I thought of an innovative way of saying goodbye, and that's me there, you can see, saying thank you for listening. By the way, that's Peter Drucker, the man who's giving us all this inspiration. Okay, now we'll need to listen to the practical stuff from our three panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. My name is Ugo Inyama, and I am a property developer. And I've been investing in property since 2003. And I'm here to share my experience on how I started this journey. And just be free to ask me any question that you're welcome, sir. Just be free to ask me any question on my learning journey and where I am and where we're going. So what I'm going to do today is to take things very, very, maybe slightly informal. Because what I want is a real discussion. Because a lot of people have come in the past and they talk about this property investing as one kind of thing that is exclusive, reserved for the millionaires. What I want to achieve today is to challenge that in our hearts, to see that you can actually start from where you're at and grow into whatever you desire to be. In 2000, I came in, as most Nigerians then, to do a master's degree in University of Leeds. After the master's degree, I started a job with a biowater treatment company, worked for a few companies. And then I thought about it, that at the end of the day, there could be more to just being in the UK and earning 18,000 a year and getting 1,150 pounds at the end of the month and paying your bills, and then get overdrawn, then wait for the other month to finish again, then you balance out from your overdraft, then you start. It was like a circle, isn't it? So I was just questioning things, and I've always been looking for ways to challenge the norm. So I started reading and interacting and talking with people, and God graciously gave me grace to align me to some people, Mr. Khan, an Indian, who happens to invest a lot into properties in Birmingham and Manchester. So we started talking. So he encouraged me, said, look, you can actually do something. He exposed me to the things that were possible at the time when we had companies in the UK. Specifically, there was a company, a bank that was known as Northern Rock. Northern Rock, people might know it in the early 2000s. So these guys were able to lend us like 100% of the property value because of how properties were moving at the time. It was just an upward trajectory. So he exposed me to that. We met some brokers and we started looking for a house. So he taught me a little bit on how to go about getting the right property. Because for you to actually make money in property, it has to start from the time that you bought the property, as opposed to what people think as the time that you actually sold. So we know that the main thing and the most important thing then was to buy right. And you have to buy at the right price. And you have to buy with some kind of information about what you intend to achieve with that property. So we started looking at all these things, and I'm going to discuss just 4 key points on just to bring in some kind of strategy that I have used to grow my portfolio from what it is right now to where I started. And just for instance, just for you to know that I didn't come into the United Kingdom with £1 million. I wasn't as privileged as Donald Trump. He got some good money from his dad. I wasn't that privileged anyway. So I didn't come with loads of money. I came in with student visa to study University of Leeds, master's degree. My international fees there was, I think, £7,400. We just managed to pay £4,000 from Nigeria, bought the ticket, and all I had with me was £650. So I would say the £650 was the cash that I ever took from Nigeria to the United Kingdom. And in addition to that, I still had debt of £3,000 to pay the union. So I have to do night jobs, do security jobs, do all that just to pay that. Anyway, that is a story for another day. Let's get into the main thing now. Right, so what I'm going to do is just to discuss the 4 simple things I do as a property investor. And 1, I know that most of us look at this thing, but the things that you can do as a property investor, which is what I do, is that I try to grow portfolio, but at the same time, I try to buy and sell, which we refer as property flipping. So the 2 strategies that I know is buy to let or buy to flip. But at the end of the day, these 2 things here, you must have one guiding principle. You are in need to make money. It's business. So if you're buying property to live in, yeah, your mindset for the property that you're going to live in is different from the mindset of the property you're buying to make money from. But where most of us get it wrong is that we use this mindset to buy this. So this is, for instance, ideally, for somebody like me with lots of children. I've got 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. I want a big house where they can have their own separate rooms. I want a driveway, I want garage, I want all that, yeah? That is for my comfort. If I am to make money, I won't be going for that. Because that is going to tie my capital down for a long time. And in business, turnover, return on investment is key. So I don't mind to buy a property for £30,000 here, as long as I'm going to sell it and make £10,000. I don't mind to buy a property in this category for £20,000. That will give me £5,000 return yearly. But if I am looking for this, I'll probably be looking for a £500,000 property, right? Yeah. Which if I rent it out, I'll probably be getting £1,000 a month. So the return doesn't make sense. And that, because also when you look at the market for a property of 500,000, you're looking at a narrow niche of market. Yeah, it's not a lot of people that can get mortgage to buy that. So you can put it out on the market and it will stay long before I can even get my money back. But if you come to a place where a lot of people want to invest their retirement money, spare cash, gift from parents, you know, people that are looking in additional source of income, then that is really quick to sell. So that brings us to now that separate the two mindsets of comfort and making money. If you're in business and you're not making money, I'll classify it that you're just doing your hobby. This is hobby, isn't it? Yeah, so because at the end of the day, what matters is the return you make out of your business. Now, having identified that you can actually buy to sell or buy to rent to grow your portfolio, the next thing that we're going to talk about now is how do you buy this? Now, if you are looking to buy a house that you rent out to students, yeah? And you're not going to go be somewhere in Hale or Bowden to go and buy a house that you want to rent out to students. So you have to target the student market. And if you are buying a house to sell, then you have to consider the area and the people that will eventually buy that property from you. If you're targeting families, then you have to look for what families are looking for. Then if you're targeting students, you need to look out for what students are looking for. So if you don't mix up these two, this and that, you will avoid overspending on properties. Because you might buy something that has a selling price of 100,000 in this area, in a certain area, right? Then there's no point for you to renovate that property with high-end, high-spec finishings. Because at the end of the day, if you have bought this property for, say, 50 grand, right? And you turn it around with about 10 grand, you've achieved 60K, right? Now you give yourself a good margin to put it out on the market for 80 to get some margin. But if you go here and say, wow, I saw this beautiful kitchen, it's going for 25,000. Just because you like it, you go and put in a 25,000 pounds kitchen on this. You saw this bathroom, you put in another 20,000 on it. You saw these wardrobes, you put in another 30,000 on it. Because you're thinking you're going to live there, but you're not going to live there. It's not your house. You buy the most expensive Italian tires. Who cares? Does it matter? What people want is a property that is fresh and clean, most especially if you're targeting the rental market. So why overspend? In the process, this is a property in an area that has a selling price of 100,000. You've already spent 120,000. And you put it out on the market for 150,000 and nobody's buying it. You think, well, this is not for me. But the mistake is actually in the furnishing of that property, you've actually overspent. So if you have the inside knowledge, you can actually buy things a lot cheaper than every other person can buy things. Like for instance, Bukun, good to see you. Yeah. She was in our house yesterday and she saw our kitchen. If I tell you how much we spent for that kitchen, you're not going to believe it. It's very easy for people to spend thousands and thousands on things like that. But you can actually source things out if you have the inside knowledge. Because how I consider this thing is that what is the point buying things where every other person buys them from? What makes you a property developer? What makes you an investor if you're going to pay the market price? Then you might as well just pack up and be like any other person and just, buy things, just go to IKEA or whatever and just buy what every other person buys. So you must have the knowledge to get cheap and cheaper than what every other person can get. Because as you're making the savings in all those things, that is actually how you make money. So you have to figure out through research, through associations, through kind of, interaction with people who are in the deal, who are into the business, to find out how do you manage to still buy things and make money out of this. That is the inside knowledge that you have as a businessman who is specializing in a particular area. So it's important that whatever you buy, that you buy right. Now that considers that most property developers do not buy properties off the open market. Have you noticed that? If I'm looking for houses to buy, renovate and sell, or properties to buy and rent, I don't go on Rightmove and just put this postcode and just get property. That's what everybody does. That's what everybody does. So if I do that, then what's the difference? So that means I have no special, I have no, in-depth knowledge. I have no, it's just, I'm just like every other person. I might just pack up. So I wouldn't buy it where everybody buys. I wouldn't go where everybody goes. Most of us go pre-auctions. Most of them, what is going on? Okay. Most of us buy pre-auctions. Most of us buy auctions. Some of us buy through our fellow investors because we have a network of people that can say, okay, I'm really sick of this now. Well, some investors, as you know, sometimes they have millions. Sometimes they don't have any because the monies are all tied into one thing or the other. And they quickly needed £50,000. I said, okay, can you just take this off me? Because they are in need of £50,000 at that moment. Probably they're going to turn it into $200,000 the next week anyway. They just need something to be sorted out. So we buy differently from every other person. We buy differently, and that is key. Because where you buy, it's actually when you buy is when you make the money. When you sell is when the assets convert into cash. But when you actually build and make that money, it's in the local knowledge, in that knowledge of getting it at the right price. So that is one very key thing, and what differentiates you from whether you're investing in buy-to-let, you're investing to buy-to-flip. The key thing is that you must buy right. Okay? So you're able to build your portfolio with this knowledge. Another thing is that if you're looking at buying to let, yeah? What you have to consider now is the return on your investment. And most times people have it as a long-term opportunity to invest money and allow capital growth, but at the same time getting a very good return on what they have initially invested. So here, you can make sure that your rate of return goes into double figures. I know some people are happy with 5% return, some are into 6% return. But personally, I target 12 to 15% return. I target 12 to a minimum of 12% return. If it's not making 12% return, then my money should work better somewhere else. So how do I achieve that? If I buy from wherever the person is buying, I'm not going to achieve that because I'll end up buying a property for £100,000 and get £500 a month and get £6,000 a year, and that's 6%, right? But I'm not doing that. That is for every other person, not me. So we have to research and get properties that will give me at least 12% return. And if I'm going to buy to flip, I'm looking at 30%. If it's not 30%, then it's not worth my effort and time. I'm not going to buy and sell for 5%, 10%, no. And again, I need to give myself margin for market volatility, because sometimes the market can be volatile. It can go up, it can go down, there could be stock, there could be one news that make everyone, the bank changes and everybody goes back into their shell. So I have to make sure that I'm buying at the right price, I'm giving myself a good margin. So that margin is able to absorb all the risk, or most of the risk, in that area. Like I said, I don't want to sound too official about this. I want to break this thing down. And I want you to be free. If you need to ask me any question, if you need to throw something back, go for it. Obviously, everything I cannot exhaust in the next 25 minutes that I've had to talk about this, because I want you to ask more questions than me telling, because in the process of asking questions, then we can provoke a lot of discussion and conversation going on. Yeah. Go on. Yeah, please, go for it.
My name is Pata. Okay. According to your experience, what is the best way to buy Cash or mortgage?
Good question. I'll respond to that. While in the investment circle, they will always tell you that cash is king. Most of my deals, I'll do them cash. Because when you do cash deals, you get a lot out of it. Unless you're inexperienced and you have cash and you are buying things as if you don't have cash. I'll give you an instance. I've had a piece of land in Hyde that was out on the market with planning permission to develop semi-detached, 2 semi-detached properties. They were asking for £100,000 for that. They put it out on the open market and they got somebody bought it for about $95,000. 3 months after, I was just keeping an eye, just checking what is there. 3 months after, I saw the land back on the market again. For I knew that something hasn't gone well. Probably they couldn't get mortgage, probably they couldn't get finance to sort this thing. So I approached the seller. So they told me somebody eventually agreed to sell for $90,000 and they sold it. But they couldn't carry on because their circumstance changed. I said, well, anyway, I'm interested in this property. So to cut a long story short, I'll tell them that I want to buy this property and I'm ready to complete in 4 days. I'm a cash buyer. I'll just take out search indemnities. I won't even wait for 7 days to 14 days search results to come out. I will take out search indemnity. I will indemnify all the risk, but I'm going to give you $70,000. And you have the money in 4 days. So that is the power of cash. So I made that offer. Say, if you're interested, just call me. He said, okay, no, that's too low. I can't lose 20 grand like that. So, well, it's up to you. And you can get this thing wrapped up in the next 4 to 5 days. And you have the choice of also sticking it out here and probably get another person buy it and come back 3 months that they can't complete. So it's up to you. 1 week I didn't hear from him. On the 9th day, I got a call straight away. Oh, that's fine, that's fine. So at the end of the day, I can do that because I have cash. If you have cash, make sure you buy as one that have cash. And make sure you get the advantage of buying things like that.
But my question is, if I may ask, now you're talking about, you're already in the game yourself, so that's easy. You have cash now and all that.
Yeah.
For someone who wants to start off, who doesn't have all the monies and all that, what is the easiest route for someone who's just starting out, doesn't have a lot of money?
Fantastic.
The only way he could go, maybe go through, because
good question.
Yeah, got a good credit.
Yeah, I told you I had £650 when I came to UK, didn't I? With £3,000 there to finish my students, isn't it? Yeah, I told you that. And I told you that my dad wasn't Donald Trump, so I didn't come with £1 million to turn over and raise the profile, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Opportunities are there for those who are looking for them. Opportunities. It never stops. There is always a way. But first of all, you have to be determined to find that way. Because something might be gazing right upon you and you even notice. Right. In this day and age, I know they are not doing 100% mortgages anymore. But you can have some kind of alliance with people. If you don't have, say, 20 grand, 30 grand, I'm sure there are people, friends, that you can put things together. You can set yourself a target. You can probably release money from your existing property. You can easily, do if there is something. But first of all, you have to want it enough. You can want it enough. You can do what we used to in those days, buy some with credit card. We used to do all sorts. Pull money here, there, borrow from friends, borrow from families, but somehow you got to make it work. And you can give yourself some kind of saving target as well. And see there is always a way to go about it. Yeah?
Can I quickly add to that?
Go on.
I was part of a syndicate in the 90s, basically. And what we tend to do is, there's about 12 of us. We approach the bank. If we can't get enough, we all bring together to actually buy old post office, old buildings, and then we sell it off to builders, the big companies like Taylor Wimpey and Barratt's, etc. It's just something that a lot of people don't know, especially from my background, that this is actually possible. If you have people together, syndicate, that's serious, and you cannot put money together and actually buy a piece of land or just get into that development. It's something I've done, since the 90s.
Thank you very much.
Till now, I'm still pretty much doing it.
Very, very possible.
If you can have syndicates to buy lottery tickets, why not syndicates to buy properties?
Exactly.
I think we'll just take the last question, and we'll try and wrap up this segment, and we will see if we have more time at the end for more property questions, please.
Yes, I will take you back to the question on whether you're buying cash or by mortgage. How does the tax affect, buying in cash? There's this impression that you pay more tax or something. Can you explain that?
No. You pay tax on profits, isn't it? Yeah. At the end of the day, whether you have cash or you have mortgage, you can only, obviously, you're paying tax on the profit you made. The advantage, I said, for buying cash is that cash remains king. And you can negotiate things very, 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 very good if you have that. But the accountants will do that. They will tell you that basically, the difference between what you sold and what you bought anyway. That you get taxed on all the deductions anyway. So I am here, and I'll continue to be taking questions, because obviously my heart desire is to get us talking. We need to talk to get these things out, because it's not really, if you go to some big time areas, you don't see people of color. It's not really the best. We need to mix up the color a little bit. Thank you very much anyway. And is there any other question? Okay.
I think there's still one more.
Okay.
We'll also have extra questions at the end of the call, so that we can touch on everything.
Yeah, my name is Johnson. I just want to ask, you're already in the business. Is it, do you people that are already in the business give the knowledge freely? If somebody wants to know, are you not thinking, he wants to come in now and there'll be less business for me because I'm giving him my knowledge on how to interact. I'm talking about, the interaction finding, I know you can do it, but can somebody else, just give that knowledge like that freely on how to buy cheap, because competition? Yeah, because of that competition factor, and they don't want somebody.
Very good question. Yeah. Very good question. I help you with that. The thing is, I think it's all down to individuals. For myself, I don't mind. There is a guy, Andy, in London, and he was an IT guy, didn't know much about properties, but in 2010, I helped him in figuring out a few things about the property that he bought in Stevenage. And that property, he got it for $170,000, 2010. And he has just sold the property 3 months ago for $360,000. And he's not a property developer, he just had some money to invest. He didn't know how to go about it. I helped him in finding a property. I didn't charge him a pound. And he was around in my house a few weeks ago when he sold, and he just said himself and his wife wants to come. I said, thank you. And nothing gives me joy than seeing things like that. When it comes to competition, the world is too big. You can't have it all, isn't it? In the UK, there's over 3 million properties. How many are you going to buy? How many are you going to sell? At the end of the day, what does it really matter if you buy or I buy it? Because what is meant for me will eventually come to me anyway. So whether you're in it or not, Does not.
So I think it's also a mindset thing as well,
Exactly.
and that's what we're trying to build with the
Yes.
Inspire
Yes.
Group brand,
To
trying
break
to
that
find
little
people
minds, needs
of
people
minds
to get off
of
the
like
little
mindsets,
mind.
so that we
Get
can.
off the little mind. The
be
little
a-
mindset is
Yes.
not, the world is too big. And the truth is that there is enough. There is enough wealth. It's just, I think one thing that has simplified this wealth in the world we live in is people who are into ITs and startups and things like that. You see somebody create a product, a service from nothing. From nothing, absolutely nothing. And even at that, by creating that,
Someone else creates something.
somebody else creates something else. And it has not decreased the wealth of Mark Zuckerberg just because somebody created a similar thing. In fact, it has added to it. So it is that little mindset that we need to liberate ourselves from. If you want anything you want to do, just tell me, that's fine.
I call it the candlelight effect. The fact that I have a candlelight here and then lit up, and 1 million people in this room want to light off my candle, it doesn't mean that it's going to diminish the light of my candle.
It
Rather,
never does anyway.
it's going to create more light.
That's
isn't it?
right, create more lights.
All right. On that
That's one more,
note
one more.
of another question, I will go. They won't let you sit down, will they? But
I don't
we'll just
mind.
take
It's
this
just a
last
time anyway.
one, and then we get the next one. And then if there's any questions, it's you.
Sorry, you probably talk about this later on. Could you talk a little bit about the international dimension of things, the spread of your investment? I'm not from Nigeria myself. I'm from Kenya.
From Kenya, that's right. Yeah.
What would probably benefit me more is the international dimension of things, the geographical spread of things. How do you go about it? I know that the factors that drive investment here completely different from what drives in Africa.
In Africa, that's right, yeah. That's fantastic. Anyway, well, I have a friend, Alex, that he does a lot of investment in Uganda. And I have another one that invests a lot in the Gambia. But they have a foot because Alex is married to a Ugandan woman, and Coco married to a Gambian woman. I must mean Nigerians, but married women from other countries, and they find it more, for some reason, to invest from where their wives are from than Nigeria for some reason. And the basic and the guiding principles remains the same, no matter where you are. I've invested in the past in Florida and Texas, and everything remains the same. The knowledge is the same. You have to buy right. You have to buy at the location that has the same, that you can achieve what you want to achieve. Because one is that you can't buy in, like a place where everybody are owner-occupiers, and you go and buy and be renting. It's not really the best to do. So you can look for a place that is mixed or known mainly for rentals. When you're buying places of owner-occupiers, you might just buy, build, and sell. So people can, the knowledge remains the same, irrespective of the environment. But I just think that whatever you know, the main thing is to buy right. If you buy right, you'll be fine wherever you are.
Okay. Buy right, talk right. Thank you so much, Ugo.
Yes, I was just planning to speak on something generic, but I received a call yesterday evening. I was told to make it a little bit about my experience and all that. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, if we notice something when he was speaking, when he talks about the success, if you look behind the curtains, you will see certain principles in place. If you take a look at all these things written here, you find out that there are principles that doesn't care whether you're pursuing property or you want to be the president of United States or you want to be the best medical doctor, neurosurgeon, or whatever. Those principles cut across all areas in life. And those are the principles I would like to mention. I was listening to this TED program on the internet. When listening to them, I noticed something in common. These guys were operating on similar principles. They might use different words to describe those principles, but they were operating on similar principles. Now, those are the type of things I would like to discuss. First of all, you know what it is to be born with silver spoon? Some people say I'm born with wooden spoon and all that. Do you know it's easier to be born with wooden spoon than to be born with silver spoon and end up with no spoon? Yes, I think that's what might have happened to me. Let me just give you a brief. When I was growing up, everything seemed to be okay. My dad then schooled here, my mom schooled here. They came to Nigeria and they were working with, whites and all that. We had everything. Downton Abbey. Suddenly, something happened. The money went. Investment started disappearing. My dad's investment. Everything started disappearing to the extent when the food on your table disappears, there is problem. And you hear your parents crying because there's no food on the table. There is. Now, we thought that was bad enough. Suddenly, the roof over your head disappeared. Well, I'll say thank God I survived, but 2 of my siblings didn't. It was that bad. Okay, now I went to the university. In the university, there was no way I could get money to feed because it came to a point in time my parents could not afford giving me stipend to, feeding money. I just told my mom, don't worry, because my dad then, nothing. I said, don't worry about me. It's like, forget about me. It was very painful. I had to do my studies. I had to go for exam. Your stomach could be rumbling. You have to do what you have to do. Now, what helped me were principles. The Bible has serious principles. And those are the principles that helped me. Now, let's share it now. Let me share something. One thing about life is you have to be hungry.
Oh, yes.
If you are not hungry, the obstacles will knock you down. And you have to be really hungry and stay hungry. As he said when he was introducing that, it's a journey. Obviously, it's a journey. If you think I have arrived, the waves of life will knock you over and other people will move across. So you have to be hungry and stay hungry. Okay, let's start with, I'm going to run a few nuggets and I'm going to give examples on how it helped. Now, if you cannot run, walk. If you cannot walk, crawl. If you cannot crawl, you find it difficult to crawl, roll. Whatever you do, keep moving. Don't stop. The danger is this. When people try to run and they find it difficult to run, they stop. Let me give an example. Let me give an example. For instance, when I was in the university, look at what happened to me. Then I had ulcer pains. Who has experienced ulcer pains before? It's one of the most excruciating pains you can ever have. There was no food, of course, there will be ulcer pains. We had an exam to do, and we had a presentation to make. So I was drawing and reading my book and suffering the ulcer pain and not knowing where my next meal will come from. But rather than stop, I had to walk. I went about begging my friends for Gary. You know what Gary is? It's the poorest meal to drink and all that. Now, this principle is a principle that was also applied when I came to the United Kingdom to do a postgraduate degree. Now, when I was doing that degree, it got to a point I didn't have a school fees to pay. And let me just back down a little. Do you know that when I was in Nigeria, it got to a point my mother did not know where I was. There was no mobile phone. For 2 years, we never communicated. Where was I? I had no home. I was on the campus, trying to finish my education. Why am I saying this? Rather than stop, walk. If you can't walk, roll, but keep moving. That's one principle. Another principle is this: make friends with acquaintances who are where you want to be rather than where you are or where you have been. I have, I'm just sharing this as I'm just laying myself bare. I don't care if you know more about me, that's okay, as long as it helps someone. I have a brother. When I said my younger brother, he made certain type of friends during that hardship period. I made certain type of friends during that hardship period. Do you know the fact he didn't survive was because of his friends? The fact I survived was because of my friends. All my friends wanted to be the best. Do you know you can only prove yourself in that my friend circle with your brain? How many A's did you have? How many? Meanwhile, somebody who I had straight 6 A's, I had straight. So even if you had 2 A's, you're the least among your friends, but you're a champion elsewhere. So make friends and acquaintances. Now that principle is now what, by the grace of God, I'm using in the United Kingdom that's helping me. Let me give you an example. When I got to a point, I said, okay, this issue of 0.95 representation of black architects in the UK, how can there be a profession where there's 0.9 something, less than 1%? What is happening? I could have stayed there and be complaining to everybody, the way everybody. I said, no. I had to think. And I said, okay, who are the top people up there? I Googled. I started fixing appointments. I wanted to make friends and acquaintances with the top people there so that at least, even if I climb to their ankle, it's something. And then I was invited for an appointment. And that appointment was the beginning of what, by the grace of God, led to that award, you know. So if I had just stayed there without making such friends or acquaintances, or went and made friends and acquaintances with people who are just there, I would just be as just there. So this principle cuts across any profession. So go Google, think, make friends and acquaintances, like I'm going to make friends with you. Yes, because I'm interested too. Well, let me keep that secret. Okay, so make friends and acquaintances of where you want to be, not where you are. Now, again, this is very important, and this is the key thing that has kept many people down. Okay, friends and acquaintances, this is one of my friends, he knows what we're doing. So it's strategic, it's intentional, it's not accidental.
Yes.
Okay, now it says failure can only become failure when you accept you have failed. Otherwise, it's just another attempt. This bulb, 1,000 times, many people would have classed it failure after 5, 6, 7 times. He just said attempt number 999, attempt number 1,000, attempt number 1,001, attempt number 1,002, just keep going. Meanwhile, that thing you want might be so big that you need to make more attempts to get there, and you're stopping at, for instance, those of who wants to start property. Some people have tried before, and you have not, maybe it didn't work. Oh, I don't know what to do, and you give up. You can't. But if you keep trying, get the knowledge. Failure is not in my dictionary. That failure, I turn it to attempt. There are so many things I could say I have failed at, but I haven't. It's just another attempt. Maybe I take a break and start again later on. Okay? So then, the other nugget I want to share is, with the absence of hard work, diligence, and determination, greatness within shall not see the day of light. Do you know so many of you here are great? I'm not flattering, and I don't care if you like me or don't like me. This is the truth. So many of you here are great. But the truth of the matter is, this greatness, if you don't add hard work, Go and ask him. Diligence and determination. He mentioned something about determination. The greatness within you, it will not see the light of day, even when you get old. So, be determined, as I mentioned initially. Be hungry. That hunger will be your driving force. That when you see, you'll be sniffing out for opportunities. Because you're hungry. I'm hungry. You sniff out for opportunities. When you find opportunity, diligence kicks in. You keep, you're diligent in that thing you're doing. And you're determined. Yes, you fail. I've not failed this attempt number one. There's no way. It becomes only a matter of time. So those are the principles I observe in most people. I was listening to great people, and I observed that. I observed that in Oprah Winfrey. I observed that in so many people. Now, because of time, your actions is not what makes the difference. Your habit is. If you want something, that action step you have taken, make it a habit. Because it's when you make those steps a habit, that's when you keep doing it even when you fail, because it's your habit. Okay, let me give you a little. There are people I look up to here. There's where I'm hungry. I've not even started, but the habit has helped me with. Let me share it with you. By the grace of God, what I do, for instance, I'm into properties also, but I'm not into this one. That's why I want you to be my mentor. I'm into that one. The PhD program I had done, what helped was habit. These books, I didn't sit down one day to say, let me write so many books. Once something pops, you make it a habit of jotting things down. Make it a habit of jotting things down. Make it a habit you go down and collate. Your habit is what makes the difference. People who play instruments, you find out that they make playing a habit. That's why they are good. Look at successful people. You find out they have habits. Some of them have habits of not wasting their evenings. Sir, may I ask you, do you normally waste your evening? Successful people have noticed it. They don't waste their evenings. Google them, study them. That's something they have in common, and they make it a habit. Okay? Now, okay. For instance, let me give an example using myself so I don't. Now, I looked at my children, and I said I want my children to be like this. But to be like this, what do I need to do? I said, okay, I'm not going to put them in lessons. But when they come back every day, I'll make it a habit of spending 5 minutes or 10 minutes to know what they did and all that. Do you know what happened eventually? My last daughter was the best in her class. My first daughter won 2 Oscars by the time she was leaving, has the highest SAT score. My son, almost the same thing. Now, the issue is that I never put them on school, extra lessons. It's just that habit that over time all added up. Those are examples, and it also affects different aspects of our life. Anything you want, make it a habit. When pursuing goals, it is fantastic not to expect obstacles. They are there to be overcome, not to stop you. I want to ask a question. How many of us have been pursuing something and experienced obstacle?
Definitely.
Okay, how many of us have stopped after those obstacles?
Sometimes.
I'm so happy to hear that. Obstacles is default. Is default. Once you want to do something, obstacles will come. If you don't expect obstacles, you're living in illusion. And when you don't expect obstacles, you're likely to stop when they come.
That's right. That's true.
But when you expect them, you know it's going to come. So when one shows up, you now say, okay, now how do I get over this one? Because what I want is on the other side. So it's good to go back and revisit all those things you've stopped because of the obstacle. There's a way to surmount those obstacles. Okay? Now, you are more likely to be a leader when you initiate things than when you don't. Let me give you an example of this. Do you know that there's an event I organized with the Royal Institute of British Architects in London, but originally I wasn't including them. I did it myself. I collaborated with the people I told you I met on a personal, away from the Royal Institute. But when that thing started gaining traction, they wanted to be identified with it. Now they are the ones who are now giving accolades to that event, but I didn't depend on them. Now look at what's happening here. Now another idea came to my mind. I wrote to the president of our institute. What the president told me was, he sent back an email which I received yesterday night. He told me, that there are people in the institute already doing that. He'll ask them to send me a letter, and send me an email, and then I can collaborate with them, which is okay. But you have to think a step ahead. Yeah. I have to start something. I don't want to be under them. It's good to be that ambitious, at least it's not. I don't want to be under them. I want to partner with them. So my planned response is, I'm going to say my practice is already doing because we're actually already doing one or two things which we are going to publish in the RIBA journal. We are doing one or two things and we'll be happy to collaborate with them. Why am I taking this direction? Because I want to be the leader. If I just go and accept that and get sucked in, I become a sub. So these are principles that cut across everyday life. Okay? Now, just because you have funds for a thing doesn't mean you can afford it. Just because you have money for something doesn't mean you can afford it. Let me give you an example. At the age of 30 in Nigeria, I was opportune to do a job. And I hit my first 1 million naira. Then I was like, wow. With that youthful exuberance, I like V-Boots so much. But I took how much did I spend? Almost 800,000. I took it and went and bought the V-boot. Yes. Oh, black V-boot, and all that. Guess what? A few months later, the V-boot chopped the remaining 200. I didn't have money to pay my rent. My landlady started making trouble with me. I went begging for money to pay for it in a V-boot. Wow. So the fact you can afford, just because you have funds for a thing doesn't mean you can afford it. Sometimes I told myself, I wish I was married then. Maybe my wife would have stopped me from making that mistake. Yeah. So just because, even it applies now, even when you have funds, I keep telling myself, I wish I knew these things earlier. When you have funds for something, always think about the future investing. That should be on a higher priority. Then you can now think of, the consumables and all that. So because the money is there, because you have £10,000 doesn't mean you can afford a £10,000 Jeep.
That's right.
Come on. Okay. If you form the habit of saying something and end up not doing it, you become comfortable with saying what you don't mean.
Agreed. That's right.
And when you say what you don't mean, oh my goodness, you see this circle of, let me just use by the grace of God, I'm part of the AFC in Arabia. We have meetings in London and all. Those circle of people, if you say what you don't mean for once, you're not going to hear from them again. You're not going to receive their phone calls. You're not going to, and by so doing, you're already plunging. You've misused an opportunity. So you can see how saying what you don't mean can cost, can limit. If you don't mean it, don't say it. It's better that way. At least you preserve your integrity.
Yes, sir.
Always leave room for mistakes when dealing with people. Oh my goodness, I've suffered for that one. I've just learned this one, though I wrote it in the book, but I've just learned to practice it. Why? Do you know I gave somebody a job to do? A Caucasian. He did the job, but I wasn't satisfied. I put him on the stage of phones. When he got to the final, I said I wasn't satisfied. Redo it. He said, no, it was. I said, redo it. He said, I said, okay, I'm not going to pay you the phone until you redo it. He took me to court that I refused to pay him. I went to the court, I went to the judge and all that. It was quite back and forth and all that. The judge, at the end of the day, said they should bring the work. He looked at it and said it was okay. But for me, for the standard I wanted, it wasn't okay. And I had CCJ on my record now because the judge ruled against me. So without CCJ, it can affect a lot of things. I wished I had made room for his mistakes. Yes, you want something very perfect and excellent, but know that sometimes it could be difficult to achieve by certain people. So you make room, you don't be so hard and fast and all that. Discuss with him, come to an agreement. Now, also, when I had a staff, and when the staff was working with me, I noticed it was miserable. But I pay you on time and all that. Later on, I realized why. Because I always over-expect from him. And when he doesn't deliver, I will just be upset about him not living to that standard. I didn't make room for his mistakes. The guy left. So I'm learning to do that. Even now, with this buy to flip and all that, the last contractor I had, I'm just trying to be careful. Okay, he's doing his best. Yes, I want this way, but it's an old building and all that. Do you understand? So make room for people's mistakes. If not, you break them and they leave you.
Yeah, that's right. You break them and they leave you. Okay, negative.
Okay, now, it will be more difficult for you to do tomorrow what you can do today. Avoid procrastination. That's one of the most misleading things. Now, let's look at it this way. Practically, when you have something to do, and then you say, okay, no, I can't do it today. I'm going to do it tomorrow. You don't know what tomorrow has lined up. That tomorrow's lineup might be much more tight than today's own. You have not survived today's lineup and you're pushing it to tomorrow. And tomorrow will bring a worse lineup. You push it the next day. Until you don't do it. I'm guilty of that in certain aspects. I'm sure my wife will agree. When she does a wardrobe I bought for the children's this thing, I said, okay, when I have time, I'll mount this wardrobe. When I have time, I'll mount it. My wife tells me, when I have time, guess how long that wardrobe has stayed unmounted?
1 year.
2 years. You shouldn't look at me like that. Okay.
Anyone has any questions for this round?
Okay, is it finished?
No.
Okay.
Almost getting.
Okay, no problem. No, that's okay.
If anyone has questions.
Okay.
So.
Any question? I think I just have to stop so that they can ask questions because it's quite.
And then if there are any questions, you just have another 5 minutes.
Okay, about 5 minutes. Okay, any question? Okay.
I think I have one.
Okay.
I think I have a question. What's going on here?
Okay.
Okay. Is there no one here? Oh, sorry. Let me quickly. Well, because of
Okay. My question is because I realize that the architectural world is a bit of I won't use the word cult because that sounds a bit negative, but it's a very tight-knitted niche, and to break into that the cream level of it, there are certain prices one has to pay, or you've got to be connected and linked, as you explained, to somebody who is somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. I guess from your own personal experience, I know you touched on it, but is it worth elaborating more on it as to how you really got into these people? Because I see a lot of young architects who end up just taking a job behind a desk.
Okay.
And which is unrelated to their, passion and what they want to do. And they don't end up, they just get frustrated in life and they just leave, and we have more people like that. So how were you able to break into this mist and operate at that level?
Okay, now, first of all, money is not everything. Value is something, and that value includes money. Now, what I did was, when I came to the UK, when you go out to ask for jobs, architectural jobs, do you have UK experience? No. Do you have UK experience? No. Do you have UK experience? I said, okay, which architectural practice will accept me and forget about paying me? Let me just go and have that UK experience. So one of them agreed, but they gave me little, just to keep me going. And I had that UK experience. Now, with that UK experience, I could now apply for the next job, a better one, with UK experience. Meanwhile, I sacrificed money on the first one. The second one I now presented, they now accepted me. Even when they accepted me, they were paying me peanuts. But at least it was a proper architectural practice, and it had name in Manchester. Now, with that peanuts, what I now did, which is exactly the principles I'm telling you, all these principles. Number one, I tried not to go late to work. I tried to go early. And number two, I tried to work harder than is expected to gain their confidence. And number three, I tried to relate with the architects there on a very good term. I make them like me. So that when I now left, I had that on my CV. Now, as he asked, when I now wanted to take my professional practice exam, they wanted 2 years experience on a very big project. Guess what? That practice gave me an opportunity to design a very large, quite large, almost as large as that building there. So that was what I used for my project. Now, he was asking, some people find it difficult. The question is, the issue is, maybe they just want to get into a practice and get paid immediately. It's very difficult. But if you offer your services, it's easier for them to accept. Yeah. And when you've been accepted, you now use that to get what you want. Now, when it now came to the exam, because the exam is another barrier, the examination for architects who studied here is quite, not as difficult from those. There's a different exam for those who come from outside. That's why I don't know of any architect. I don't know if you know of any that's schooled outside in Africa that is here, that is registered. Maybe there are, but I don't know, because they make it very difficult. Guess what? I've said this before. The first exam, you have to take 3 exams, and you have to have 100% in each of them. 99.9% is fail. One question has 6 points that if you miss one, you fail that entire question. That's one question. So even after doing a PhD here in the UK, I took my part 1, I failed the first time. Took it again, failed the second time. Remember what I said, failure is not failure unless you give up. Took it again the third time, I was able to pass. I now faced part 2. Took part 2 the first time, guess what happened? They didn't open my project. They failed it on the topic. When I came, I was like, sorry, Mom. And if you see, they were just sitting down, round table, coming for the, it was very scary. They failed it. I said, okay, why, They said, sorry, I'm afraid I had to just leave. So, I would have given up then, I now decided to go back, look for what they wanted. I started the project again afresh. And I got somebody to break down the English of the questions for me. I paid him, a Caucasian, a senior architect. And then I went for part 2 a second time. And I passed part 2 the second time. Yes, I passed it the second time. But I passed it with referral. They said, they didn't pass me. They told me, go and submit again on something before we pass you. So I did part 2 3 times, part 1 3 times, part 2 3 times. Now we got to part 3. Do you know part 3? During the interview, they failed me and put it to me that I was lying. They said, why did you not work under a practice for this particular experience? Because I had 2 experiences. The other one I worked under the practice, the other one I worked under my... They said, why did you... I told them it's because there was a recession in 2009 and all that. Architectural firms were not employing, so I had to start. They told me that I was lying. And he shouldn't have told me that because it was unethical. So I felt it had to do with my... You get what I'm saying? So I was failed on that. I said, okay, I'm going to do this part 3, that anybody that fails me will know it's not because of the knowledge. I now had to use PhD skills on the next submission. It was so good that when I went for the interview, the man sitting before me looked at my work and asked me, did you fail it the first time? I said, yes. After the interview, he was just telling me, this is good, this is... He shouldn't tell me that in an interview. He should just say, okay, we'll get back to you. But he was busy telling me the work was good. The work was good and all that. So that's how I... Now, if I had stopped at any of these 7 points, each of the exam is £2,000 for starters. Even if you fail, £2,000 is gone. So you can see why it's very... So that's why I'm now in a battle. That's one of the motivating factors. How can there be 1% ethnic minority representation? So that's what made me think. And that's what made me Google names of people at the top. And that's what made me to now write to the people at the top and got an interview. Yeah.
How easy was it to get access to those people at the top?
You need to buy these books because a lot of things has to do with how you approach them.
Which one?
You have to be humble. It's in one of the... Yeah. How you approach them. Make yourself nothing. Yes, I had a PhD. I would have gone there and, and all that. And I was now chartered at that time because I had passed the exams. But I made myself nothing. Put them on a pedestal.
Strip to conquer.
And then I started telling them, these are my desires. This is what's happening. What should I do? I need water, sorry. Excuse me. It was a lady who now told me, why don't you organize events? Include ethnic minority and all that. I said, okay, where do we start? What do I do? She said, okay, do this. I went back. I started doing it. I told her, she spoke to the president. I hadn't met the president then, no. Thank you. Sorry, she spoke to the president on my behalf. See, I initiated this whole thing, so we should learn to initiate things. She spoke to the president on my behalf. The president invited me to a dinner, and in that dinner there were 400 architects present. I was the only black.
400 architects.
400, I was the only black. I met a Chinese there. The Chinese asked me, what do you do? I said, I'm an architect. He said, I'm surprised. That's what he told me. Obviously, I knew he would be surprised, so I didn't blame him. He was just being honest. You know what I'm saying? But when I went to the president, guess what? They took me to, the president took me. He was very friendly, stooping to conquer. I was like his boy. He took me and we sat on the president's round dinner table. When we sat there, guess what happened? Some people just came and said, no, that's not my table. I should leave. I should come. They have a table. It's like, how can this be sitting with the president? I laughed it over. She took me, the president told me, don't worry, we'll meet later. I went to that. Guess what? The only people of ethnic minority there were people serving. And that wasn't looking good. So that's the story of how I got to know the president. And from then on, the president decided to be the keynote speaker in my event. And because he became the keynote speaker in my event, the largest architectural practice in the UK, second largest, BDP, in Manchester, high-rise building, they decided to host it because it's now linked to the president. Yes, and so they hosted it. And before you know it, the event started gaining traction. but it wasn't. It was hard work and determination, because to get people to attend there, it was our yes. So, but it was those events that made them recognize, and by the grace of God, they made me the only, they call it newly qualified, inspirational black. I was the only person in that category, black architects. But one thing I noticed, I looked at, they had part 1 architects, there were 11 people they were recognizing. Part 2 architects, that's people undergraduate. Part 2 architects are postgraduate, there were about 12 people. Part 3 architects were people who were about to take the final exam, there were about 11 people. Then the people who have already qualified, 1 person. That means that there's a barrier to qualifying for people of. So they say that they have about more than 50% attrition rate. That's blacks start the process, but they don't come out as architects. They give up along the line. So that is the battle I'm in now. By the grace of God, I'm now part of the EFC. These people that advise the Institute on Diversity. So we're having another meeting. And that meeting, that's where I told myself, if I go there and allow my mouth to be shut, then what am I doing there? So that's why if you say anything there, I will politely but firmly oppose it. Well, the story can just go on and on. It's just...
You see why I said he's conquered so many battles. Someone has a question.
Okay.
Thanks, Tim. It's interesting to hear your story of persistence. My question is, how can we use our persistence to make it work for us intelligently in careers that have obstacles, without fueling the stereotype, without fueling our own discrimination?
Okay. That's why, sorry, go on.
Yeah.
Good question.
How, for instance, can we use what he calls humility to conquer without rising up on top because you're perceived as not a threat, if you know what I mean? One of the issues I've faced myself as an academic is there's a stereotype of what is acceptable if you're not just minority or black, or in our case African. There's a stereotype of the acceptable African. In your career, what experience can you share with others on how to actively resist this without living up to the stereotype, either of unworkable with or workable with because you're basically voiceless?
Okay. First of all, it has to do with your mindset. Don't look at yourself as less than, number 1. Number 2, understand that you are in a different environment and that you have to do twice to get to a particular level. It should be at the back of your mind. So when it starts happening, you don't feel discouraged. Now, with regards to stepping to conquer, one of the advice this lady gave to me, let me tell you, this lady who is my mentor in that aspect, she's all over the architecture news for something, I just leave it at that. But she told me, when you're relating with people, especially in this profession, they tend to say things that tend to bring you down. She's told me, when that happens, be polite, but don't let it pass. Address it in a polite way, so that next time they will understand that you're also intelligent, that you identify those things and it's unacceptable, however, you're not confrontational. So the question I now ask is, how does one do that? And I went seeking for advice. I came to him, because at some point there were some storms brewing, and he advised me on, So from your question, how do we get to be accepted based on our intelligence without our this thing being, so the issue is, you also have to be knowledgeable with regards to that, the architecture. You have to be knowledgeable. But again, sorry, you say I'm marketing there's something there that I put, you have to be creative. That's what pushes you out. Look, let me tell you something. This applies to all professions, not just architecture. Knowledge is out there. If you enter into that path of knowledge, you're competing with so many people. But if you carve out your own path, you are the top on your path. They have to come and ask you what's innovative, like you mentioned. Do you know what I'm doing now? Let me share this with you people. Because now, in London now, they now know, what my practice is doing as it relates to mental health. But I realize everybody is doing mental health. So I just want to carve out my own niche. So what I did was I've started thinking, how do you get architecture students to develop resilience for mental health? But I know an argument might come. Why are you putting the burden on the students? Why don't we stop the cost of mental health? So I said, okay, why don't we make it a two-pronged thing? While you're trying to stop the cost of mental health, you're trying to develop resilience. Because the cost might take time to be solved, but the resilience help reduce the impact. I prepared an email for this. I sent to the president. Because I'm carving out my own niche. So when they see things like this, they tend to now appreciate what's up there. So knowledge and innovation is key. But know that for people to get that knowledge and innovation, you have to put it out there. But their first assessment on you is how you look. So when that comes, you don't let it bother you. Smile. I went for a dinner, and then when I got there, one of the ladies was saying, "We have, you have to pay to come into this dinner." Well, I know she was referring to me because I was the only person here. So you have to. I was just smiling, I laughed it over, that kind of thing. So it's going to happen, but don't let it affect you. Just build your this and be innovative. That's it.
What a privilege and honor it is to speak to such a distinguished gathering. It's not very fair to put me on the same panel with this gentleman. I don't know how you came about including me in this conversation, but thank you very much. Chukwudi Onwudiwe is my name, and I was born in Ibadan. Showing her things. Ibadan actually is one of those rustic cities, a bit laid back, but with such sophistication. Of course, the first university in Nigeria was also in that city. They've got a University College Hospital as well. Ibadan people quarrel over the minutest matters. They're just amazing people. They're very conservative, but probably the best thing that happened to me was being born in Ibadan, because the lesson there, the training in Ibadan is one of the things that teach you is to be respectful, to be, to address people with a bit of sensitivity and caution. So they simply tell you it doesn't matter what it is or who you think you are, which was one of the things my senior Dr. Oyenobi was saying, that one of the ways to conquer, you were, as an academic, you were asking an interesting question. How do you progress your career in an environment of hostility and where there's great knowledge on your part? But clearly, you can see everybody with reservations about who you are. One of the things you want to do is, how it is when we're endowed with beauty or good looks, or you think ABC of yourself. You're conceited. Sometimes we can't hide who we are. We want to express it in presentations, in conversations. And the white man already thinks you're a black man. You can't possibly be so endowed. And you are there asserting it. and as it were flaunting it. And he remembers that he was a slave master. If you've forgotten that you were a slave, I'm sorry I'm bringing the conversation in that level. It's just it's the
Psychology.
it's their depth of thinking. It's where they are. It's where history and culture has brought us to. But we find ourselves in this community, in this environment. We are living here. That's where we are. Our children are going to school here. So one of the things we must learn to do is how to relate with them if we must progress. Because we have to progress as a people. We have to. We just have to. He is not happy that he's the only he attends meetings and he lives in an environment where he's the only white man. People are proud that they are the only black people in different circumstances. I mean, I don't know why we should be. The question is, how do we get the community, the tribe? I mean, our people. How do we get more involved? How do we activate? How do we, what do we do to get more participants from our community? I imagine. So many years ago in Ibadan, I studied English at the University of Ibadan. And then when I finished, my mom was always saying to me that, look, Chukwudi, it's all about education. If you want to have a voice out there, it's about education. So I thought, well, I'm sure most mothers have also said that to them. It's about education. So I thought, okay, all right. So when I finished English, I served in a town called Benin City. And I got there. There was so much, as you know, it's renowned for wood, sculpture, bronze. And there's a lot of art there. But I was asking myself that, look, excuse me, there's also a lot of impoverishment here. There's a lot of poverty here, and you associate arts with wealth. I could not understand why a people can be so poor and so rich. As you all know, creativity. You talked about Mark, what's his name? Zuckerberg, and all the applications they've developed and how that has translated into great wealth. It's the same thing with the Benin people. But so why is Africa suffering such poverty? Or why was Benin when we are known to be as creative? Anyway, so I said to myself, okay, you know what you do? Why don't you start? So I called my friend who lived in Benin then. I said, look, I hope you know that if you sell an artwork to every family in Nigeria, you'll be a millionaire or a billionaire. So these sculptures are sold for about 100 naira, 200 naira then. I said, I hope you know if you can sell to, so you sell to this family, you sell to that family, you go from one state to the other, you just run around. I hope you know you would create income for yourself. He didn't take it seriously, and that's exactly what I have gone on to do. Selling artworks. Unfortunately, I haven't made the millions and the billions like I should have. But what has resulted, or what has the consequence of all of that is, I have now opened a gallery in Manchester after many years, and the experience of managing a gallery at an international level. Because in Nigeria there were things I didn't pay attention to, but you can't compete with museums and galleries that have been established over 3 centuries ago. In fact, for your information, most galleries and museums that you see were all established in the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries. So you can imagine the eons of practice. And how Chukwudi Onwudiwe started 2-3 years ago, wanting to, what? It's clearly that can be competition. Wanting to be noticed in an environment like that. How do you, for goodness sake, how dare you? What sort of ambition is that? And unfortunately for me, again, it's also African art, not Western art. How do you thank you, Brother Ugo. You talked about business being, an entrepreneur is someone who is profit conscious. How do you make a profit? How do you do it? How do you run a business in an environment like this where, first of all, you would imagine that your tribesmen will be the one interested in African art. They don't even visit galleries and museums. They don't engage with art. Well, again, I don't hold anybody responsible because it's probably our economic circumstance. Because it's wrong to think they don't love art or they don't have a sense of appreciation. I think that would be very, very. I refuse to, because in Nigeria, the same questions were being asked. But guess what? I found out that I was doing great business in Nigeria. I was making money. Why? Because you had that group of Nigerians who were educated, whose parents, remember, were politicians and businessmen. So they've schooled abroad, they've traveled, they understand the arts. They have great knowledge of the arts. So of course, when I held exhibitions in support of these young artists, I was selling. Paintings were going off the shelf. And most of the people who were also buying were from outside Nigeria. So I used to host exhibitions at the Transcorp Hilton Hotel, the lobby lounge there, and you would pay about 100,000 naira a day. Many years ago, the first one I did was about 100,000 naira a day. You do for 3 days. Now I do for like a month. 150 a day times 1 month. Because the longer you stay, there's a likelihood that you find more people interested in the art. But it's not as much as the sale of the arts. How did you said something about sourcing your art? I mean, for a businessman, for you to make money, for you to increase yield as a businessman, you would need to source your products or your commodity or your services. You have to make it is it affordable, or you have to get it at a cheap rate, or there has to be, the canvas needs to be what it is. So if you get it at £10, you need to be able to sell it at 15, 20. So you must know where to go and source it for £5, so you can still sell it at 15. So one of the things I did was start a relationship with artists, students who were graduating from schools. The quality of their paintings weren't particularly great, not the sort I wanted to purvey, but it's a long-term investment, the arts. Now, my contemporaries were selling masters. Now, masters were not masters, established, more acknowledged artists. So with those ones, I won't have to come and tell you who Damola Adepoju is, for instance, because you already have heard about Damola Adepoju. So if I tell Damola Adepoju is 5,000 naira or 20 or 1,000 pounds, you already have ascribed renown and as it were, craftsmanship. He's recognized as an artist of some repute. So with these younger artists, I see myself just building them, developing them. A lot of times when they bring their collection to me, you can see that it's so, but I don't send them back. So many times they come, I just look at those pieces and I'm like, okay, all right. Because if you send 10 paintings, he has brought 10 paintings to you, and you look at it and you're like, oh, it's only 2 you like, so what? You pick 2 and you give him back 8. No, what I do is I take the 10, because if he takes back that, if he takes back the other 8, his mind is still clogged in selling that rather than going back to his studio to reproduce work. And what I want is to see more of his abilities, and he can't do that when he's thinking about how to sell that. So I take that off him. So the point I'm making is that over time, these young artists have become so good at what they do, it's unbelievable. But somebody needs to be with them. In fact, the exhibition we're opening to the public today, Christopher Ankeli, is one of those artists I met like that. Young, creative, intelligent artist who has got potentials, likes found objects. And can I say to you, ladies and gentlemen, that African artists are they're very hungry to. You talked about quest to assert self. Most of them are. They're not, well, you do have the ones that are self-trained, but a lot of them have art history. They're very educated, very informed about Western style, culture, traditions, artistic traditions. You know, they know what's going on around the world. And you know, you should see them where they're practicing their art. They're very. There's that. What I like about them is first of all, they experiment. They like to try different. They like to try different materials. You know, you can just see that they want to grow their reputation. They want to build some sort of name for themselves as recognizable and respectable artists. Now my role in all of these is to provide platform for visibility, for other people to see it and appreciate them. And you only do that by organizing shows for them, fairs, art fairs, exhibitions. So that's all I was doing in Nigeria, and that wasn't doing well. Well, it was doing well until I then came into the UK to open this gallery. Now, running this gallery has been very challenging, I have to say. One of the difficulties was focusing on the artistic and the business side of the business. Now, artistic side means establishing us as a gallery where you can find good quality artworks, good quality pieces. That's one of the things. The detraction there was that it didn't allow me to look at the business side, which is making money, bringing income into the gallery to pay the bills. But I'm glad I took that decision. Decision making is very key as well. The reason why that decision was important, why that element of focusing on the artistic side is that now, for instance, there's awareness out there that if you do require good quality art from international aesthetics, as it were, you can get them at Chalk Gallery. Because most people who have visited have sort of commented. The feedback is that, Dr. Tim came in one day. In fact, his first day he came, I remember him. I mean, he's an architect. As you all know, architects are bloody intelligent people. And he looked at Nelson Oko's painting, and he stood for a while, and he said to me, you know, I've looked at all your other artists. I wonder how this chap has created this. And I said, right, that's what I need. I need that sort of as it were, yes, that sort of interaction where, because the art requires you to ask a lot of questions. I liked the fact that you talked about being an academic. So let's say being about the academics. What has established Western art, as it were, is the quality of the research and material that is generated about their artist. So you've got all kinds of you can imagine art history. Most universities offer art history. Publications are there. You've all heard about the masters and all that. You have no idea how much written information is out there about this. Now in Africa, how many people do we have writing for African artists? So one of the things we do at the gallery for each exhibition we have is commission writers or editors, columnists, people who are savvy, who have a knowing, who have some knowledge to research into the profile of the artist and just come up with information about the artist. And what we do is have that information published. So, because the other thing you want to know about the artist is not just the visuals. You're also interested in the history, the as it were, some background information that helps your appreciation of the work. You know, and that's exactly what the gallery does. That's one of our roles, generating material that helps further appreciation of our artist. Now, for me to, because Tunde said I studied law, for that to happen, as a curator, well, not as a curator, as a keeper of the gallery, it was important for me to also have this understanding. So what I did before then was to go and study arts management policy and practice at the University of Manchester. Now that exposed me completely to how galleries, museums in the Western world are managed. And it's some of those skills that we're bringing into Chalk Gallery. Now, to round up, what I would like to say is the points that have been raised by Dr. Tim and Brother Ugo is very relevant. But my contribution is the need for us to build relationships. So if you take anything out of my conversation, is the need to build relationships. You do need to network, ladies and gentlemen. You do need to make friends. You'll be surprised how little associations contribute to building your wealth. Look at Mr. Major there, who, as you all know, he's assisting us with photographs here. You'll be surprised that the gentleman who was supposed to take the photographs, the London renowned photographer who was meant to come in, he couldn't come in for some reasons or the other. Now, because I have a great relationship with this man, I didn't even know how to call him. I just told my wife. My wife said not to worry. And my wife calls him. Now, because they have wonderful relationship, Mr. Major, well, don't forget, exhibition is just a few days away. Mr. Major arrives with his equipment, sets up, and now takes these beautiful pictures, images of the collection. And so we were able to then proceed with catalog development and all that. The point I'm making is, it was that relationship. Where would we have found a photographer? And how much would that have cost us? It should have cost us a lot. Relationships, they matter so much to building a business. In fact, one contact. In fact, I remember another contact from London. Someone just called me, and it was Tullow Oil. Tullow Oil is, I think, a Ugandan, I don't know if it's Ugandan oil company in London. They needed artwork. Artwork. Somebody just called. I missed the call. It was my wife who picked it up. And they called me. So you see, it's your associations. I mean, you have a role to play as well in the development or progression of whatever it is you do, but you do need to build relationships. They matter so much. And Dr. Tim has helped us. How do you foster? How do you fertilize that relationship? It's in being respectful. Not being insensitive to your own friends. You'll be surprised that someone who you call your friend can be hurt by the little thing you do, and you won't even know that. So, ladies and gentlemen, entrepreneurship is not just about how wonderfully intelligent, how creative, how innovative. All of those things are wonderful. But please remember that we must keep our relationships with your wife, with your brother, with your sister, with your friends. You cannot not pay attention to them. The minute you start ignoring them and focus, because you want to be successful, you want to be accomplished, and you relegate those relationships, I tell you today, I stand in front of you and tell you today that when you get there to that ambitious height of yours, that relationship that you neglected will come and hurt you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, you see what I was talking about, what I've been taken from the feet of this gentleman over the years. Now, talking about relationships and conversations, tonight at Chalk Gallery, we've had breakfast here. There'll be dinner at Chalk Gallery on Plymouth Grove. The Salvage 2 is opening. We've had very nice breakfast here, prepared by the catering angle of Chalk Gallery, by the way. There's Marvel Kitchen. I don't know if you've ever had the privilege of being marveled by the. Yeah, I know you will have questions, Now, okay, 1 minute. Please don't dash off yet. It's 5:30 p.m. Chalk Gallery. What's the name of the artist, by the way? Christopher Ankali. Ankali. Is that a Fulani name? Ankali. Oh, right, there you go. The Benue man will actually hear that. CY, Ankali, Benue. Well, I know. Don't remind me. Anyway, thank you very much. Chalk Gallery at 5:30 p.m. And the questions to Mr. Ondiwe. Yeah. Just one.
Thank you. I'm very happy with your presentation. I just have two questions for you. The first one is: are you an artist by yourself, or you just position yourself just to market the product of artists? And the second is: how can you? I don't know, because when I look at the artistic world, for me is like a dream. How can you convince somebody who just look at very good paintings like that, just like a picture that was drawn by a 2-year-old?
Please, let's know about the investment angle of art as well, too.
Thank you very much. The arts can be very difficult to market, I can assure you. I studied law. My father is late now. He will be very unhappy with me because I'm not practicing law. I have a master's degree in law. Mr. Odusonya used to help me then. I'm not a great academic, but African artists are not represented internationally as much as they should be. But the good news, can I say, ladies and gentlemen, is that the Royal Academy of Arts, in its over 249 years, I think there'll be 250 this year, have never exhibited in their summer exhibitions a collection of art from Africa. For the first time last year, through they had an exhibition of African art. Sotheby's, again another 250-something years organization, was thinking that, look, listen, there must be money to be made from African arts. They also, for the first time last year, had their own modern and contemporary African art exhibition. Now, what's that telling us? It's telling us about the intrinsic strength and value, artistic merit in that you find in the works of these young men and women. But how much of it is being again fostered around? I mean, who has access to them? Who's providing information about them? Somebody needs to be doing that. Our organizations need to be doing that. There's not a lot of that happening. So Chalk Gallery is just.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope we've all enjoyed ourselves today. I just want to say thank you for coming. This event was organized and arranged by the Influencers Church. The Inspire Group is just an initiative of the church to help people on their journey of life. Of course, all of the panelists and the speakers have touched on various aspects of it, and it gives me joy that, a lot of us today are going with some form of excitement about the future, that the future is possible. It is possible. We can break through. We can go for it. Like you all know, I'm a person of faith, and I believe so much that everyone has been given an assignment to do. And one of the reasons rather for this session is to help us galvanize that, or throw in a bit of impetus, so to speak, to steer us towards that direction. I just want to say thank you to all our speakers. Thank you, Ugo, for coming. I have deliberately become a disciple here. Thank you, Dr. Tim. Please, I have read Dr. Tim's books, apart from the one on Amazon anyway, because I'm not an architect, so I don't have anything to do with those ones. So he also writes academic books as well. But please, those ones, the series are very, very, very strong and very powerful. They're very good for kids, teenagers. If you've got teenage children, you want to start formulating them, let them get used to it. Those books, they're little quotes they can, little nuggets they can pick and run with. In the future as well, as part of these sessions, this is just an open session. We are commencing also what you call a masterclass series for things like these. The one we're putting up sometime in December is, I know and I appreciate that a lot of us are in jobs and a lot of us wants to simply just get into a job and just, do something. But I do a lot of mentoring and life coaching, and one thing I observe is that for a start, a lot of people do not even have a good CV. For a start, a lot of people do not even know what to say or what to do when they get in front of or they're put before a panel of for an interview. And that kind of breaks them and weakens them and puts them in a disadvantage. So we're putting up a kind of a masterclass to help do that. So if you know of anyone, please just get the person over, go to our website and sign up. The sign up will be up by the end of today, I think, or tomorrow. But go up, sign up for it, and we will get in touch with you once we get the venue. I think once we sort the venue out, I think we'll be good to go. That is one. So we want to really help people in that regard. The feedback forms, I think that's been communicated. Then at the back of you've got a pack there. Within the pack there, for those of you who are Christians and you want to fellowship with us tomorrow in church, feel free. The address and the detail is in that pack. You will see it. I just want to say a huge thank you to my team. I had good people who helped put this together. You should know that this is not just done by one person. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to our able solicitor, HBO himself. Tunde, I just want to say thank you to you. Thank you for all the help. Thank you, Anthony. It's been, thank you for securing this place. Anthony actually secured this place. You've been securing this place for a while now, so. But thank you for doing that again, arranging the place. And this place is beautiful, isn't it? And CY. How many of us have got I'm sure everyone has got the little profile document in their envelope. That is CY for you. The content there is just CY, and I just want to say thank you very much, CY, for helping with all of that. I'm sure you met CY at the registration as well. I just want to say thank you. Who else? Lighton, our able assistant, thank you very much. Campbell behind the camera, thank you so much. I could go on and on, but I just want to say thank you guys. It's been a great time. Please, there is still food at the back. Don't bother about going for lunch. There is lunch there. Okay? Just enjoy yourselves. And please, we will need your feedback. Your feedback will help us to inform what we want to do. And sometimes, some people want to go to learn more things and all that. I just want to say thank you and thank you again. Yes, and thank you to the speakers. I mean, I can't just thank you guys enough. I mean, it's hard to get these people's time. But for them to spare their time to come sit with us and just share their hearts, share their experiences, it will be great. And next time again is going to be good. I promise you, it's going to be a lot better than this. We're going to bring more people to come around and stir us up. How many of us are into politics? We have very less. In fact, in the entire Manchester, I think there's only one black person who is a councillor. In the entire Manchester, Trafford, Salford put together. Do you understand? So we need to have representation. I know CY is so much into politics, so that's the person I'm hoping that she will step up. So I just want to say thank you, and have a wonderful afternoon. Please finish that everything there. Just make yourself comfortable. We're not going anywhere so soon. Yes. Thank you, and have a lovely afternoon.